Hello, everyone. I am Julie. I am Blumira's channel marketing manager, and we're here with the July Insiders. One day I will script myself out for this, but today is not that day. Living out my dreams of being the narrator from Love Island, uh, you know, this Wednesday. But yeah, that will have to take practice anyway. Um, we have a super exciting insiders today. So, just some normal housekeeping. Drop your questions in the chat as you go, especially on Kindling. We'll be talking a lot about, how to use it and stuff like that today. Um, I will send out the email recording tomorrow morning. If I can get to it, I will try and send it out later today. Um, Sound off in the chat where you're joining from. My little question of the day today is, what would your walk-up music be? And our panel is more than welcome to participate in the question. Our agenda today is super easy. We're going to talk just real quick about two webinars, and then Matt's going to do a whole thing on putting Kindling to work. So just as usual, Cass just came back from Texas. So we were at Exchange with a super successful boardroom. And we'll be at Robin Robbins next week and then ChannelCon in August. If there's anywhere that you think we should be, please let us know. But otherwise, come say hi. And we hope we'll see you there. The two webinars, we have one tomorrow with DNS Filter, and that's supposed to be a really great one with a live demo. So when I send this, you can register while you're watching us, but when I send this, you'll also have all of the links to inside the PowerPoint and everything. I'm aging myself by saying PowerPoint. And then we have a Blumira managed. For last month's Insiders, we talked about our MDR offering. So on July 23rd, we'll be talking about it as it actually launches. So join us for that. And now I am going to hand it off to Matt.
All right. I'm gonna hope I don't talk y'all for 57 minutes, but that may be what happens. We'll see. Um, do you want to control the deck or do you want me to reshare, Julie?
I'm going to try and give you control of the deck. See if that works.
Hope everyone's having a good day today. And I think I'll probably touch on all of your questions around Kindling, but as Julie said, please let us know in the chat as you're pondering new things, but I suspect I'll end up covering a lot of it, which is good. Let's see. You gave me access. Let's see.
That's not what I want to do.
It's so much easier in Google Meet, but no one wants.
It is easier in Google Meet, but we work with what we have.
I can just reshare on my side. It's not a big
Okay,
deal.
if you want to do that, we can do that.
Yep, I have an upper idea. Take it over from you.
Okay.
Perfect. That should be visible for everyone. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for taking your time. I'm hoping I'll answer all your questions about Kindling, probably some things some of you know, some things you don't, and also where we're going with Kindling, which I think is an important part of this too. Just like worth openly saying out loud. And this is in this deck as well. You'll see it, but I figure I'll start here as well. We're still working on Kindling. We're still making sure it's well integrated, and I'm going to touch on that in a few different places as we go through this. But the most important thing, and the most important thing when we think about Kindling internally, is making sure that Kindling is triaging for you and making sure that it's triaging for you accurately. So just, yesterday we pushed some changes into Kindling that improved some accuracy around how we were bringing in other findings and making sure that when those findings are being correlated together, that it is really making sure that those pieces of evidence are well connected, which is say there have to be multiple pieces of evidence connected and connecting those two together, as well as making a change that very much is impactful for this group around how we are bringing in data to analysis with other sub-accounts and not necessarily tainting that data and the bias. We had a few examples where it kind of got a bit overhanded, so we wanted to make sure that it was being handled in that way. So I'm going to touch on that in a few other places, but this is a weekly updates we're getting out, and we're going to touch on that, but I want to kind of talk about how to operationalize it and what we're doing to help make that easier looking forward. So what we keep hearing, we've talked to a lot of MSPs over the last, 2 months-ish since we got out Kindling. 2 months? I don't know. Time is relative to me, so y'all have to tell me how long it's been. I feel like it's been about 2 months. What is a case? I think like we're going to touch on that. It's pretty well documented, but I think we'll recap that a little. I'm going to talk about the PSA side, what we currently have in place, how you can use that, where we're going with this, and then operationalizing it. We're going to talk about that a lot today. But really wanted to make sure that we get you all the insights that you're looking for and hitting all the useful things. And I see there's a Q&A, so let me make sure that you see all the screens. All right, Julie, you might want to stop your share. I think it's sharing both of our screens now. Thank you, Chris. Answer that live. All right, perfect. Thank you, Chris. All right, so what's a case? We've already touched on this a little. A lot of this is about how to bring together multiple findings, or maybe one finding in some cases, that give you additional layer of evidence, additional layer of investigation into what is happening in your environment and related to the data inside of it. So that could be going out to Shodan, going out to Abuse IPDB, going out to different sources, pulling in data like what is the IP risk that we're seeing, where is this IP located, and continuing to build up that level of evidence. And we've seen a lot of really strong benefits of this in certain cases, especially in the case of business email compromise, stolen tokens, where there's additional actions being taken that would come inside of the logs. And in a historical world of Blumira, you would have to go and do a lot of that work yourself, or on any other SIM. It doesn't particularly matter. You'd have to go look for that additional information. Maybe if you have an additional MDR inside of that, they might bring that to you. But really, the goal of the case inside of Kindling was to make it so when you went to the case, when you went to go to review that, it gave you all the information you needed in a single view. And we really want to make sure that Kindling is doing that for you, and that's really where we want to get the most feedback. Are you getting the output that you expected? Is it working the way that you would expect it to? So the other big question that we've been getting is how do we get the stuff into our PSA? We have ConnectWise PSA out. We are working on Halo PSA as well right now, which I'm going to touch on as well. We have AutoTasking as well. And we want to make sure that we bring those equivalencies into the product. So we are not forgetting about it. We agree that like tight integration is a really important part of this. So right now, and I'm actually missing one on here, you'll see it later in the deck, you can get email notifications routed into your PSA, which I know is annoying, but you can get those, and I'll touch on how to do that. You can work directly from your inboxes to do that. And in general, you're always going to want to resolve through the app or through Kindling, like always. Now, if you're resolving through your two-way PSA and you're finding, that's okay. We will be, like you see there on the right, getting out the native direct to PSA. It'll probably be in the next, I would guess, 2 to 4 weeks. We'll have that into the product based off where we are from an engineering perspective. That's getting rolled into some of the Halo PSA work that we're doing. But there are a variety of options to get these out. Really, the thing that I look at least my view, is the kind of the hardest part of killing right now is that it doesn't cascade the finding closures down when you close a case. So related to that and kind of related to, I think, operationalizing Kindling, that is another big change we'll be making in the next, 2 to 4 weeks, kind of depends on where the sprints land within the engineering team. But what that's going to allow you to do is when you close a case, and or when Kindling decides that a finding doesn't need to be worked, it will close those for you. And one of the big pieces of feedback we've gotten, and I don't know if you all have seen this, but it's worth saying out loud, is that it is not particularly helpful right now with Kindling because if you run an executive report, you still have all your findings still open. They need to cascade those closures down so we can show that they're actually being worked so you can provide those executive reports out to your customer base, which totally makes sense. So really like the way that we look at this or that I look at this is that we need to make sure that we're properly operationalizing in the product so it cascades those finding closures down so the work you're doing you get credit for. And the PSA needs to be integrated as well into that. So, we already have a few direct PSA integrations. We will be adding in the PSA for cases around Kindling as well. Halo is also going to get added into that for those of you who use Halo. We also have webhooks that I don't even know if we've announced yet, but I'll be going to GA next week that I'm going to touch here in a second as well. So again, a few ways to use Kindling, a few ways to operationalize it. Doesn't change the slight annoyance that I totally understand that it doesn't cascade those finding closures. That is really kind of the gap we look at. I'm going to touch as well as to how we're going looking at integration into the future. So one of the big ways that we look at this internally is that there's kind of three different ways of looking at Kindling depending on who you are and how you're using it. If you're at that IT security manager, like kind of the top level, the dashboards and the organization reviews are really helping you understand like how is this deployed? What is happening? Is there something that we need to do inside of this? What are my active integrations? Just that general kind of quick touch view of looking at your organization's your broad MSP. If you're an analyst or operator, you're on the ground, that organizational level and that findings view still helps with that day to day and supporting that stick analysis. For every finding you have, it doesn't matter if we automatically run it or not. You can load that into Kindling. If it's an operational finding, Stick will still analyze that for you. So take advantage of it. Use the view inside of Kindling to get you what you want and do that initial investigation for you, even if you don't really know if you need it, it's worth running. Like burn my credits because I want to see how this is working for you. It's important for me because I like to know how it's working for you. And really allowing that kind of specific org view across your analysts and operators, we've found to be really helpful for getting insights into what is happening in those environments, what might be worked on now, what are the cases looking like. And then, of course, at that tier one help desk really kind of working the things coming in that door, using those cases and that initial case view to understand what is happening, what is the risk around this case, is this something I need to worry about? And then, of course, in a few weeks, you get that nice view of it, cascading those finding closures down and really kind of pulling that work effort out, which is really kind of our big goal here. We want that to be the front door for your triage and making that as easy as possible for you. So, the things that I would recommend, and I have more to talk about, but I want to start with this and I'll end with this too, is the three things that I would recommend doing today. If you have not yet turned on notifications for Kindling cases or the prioritization and how it kind of can de-escalate or escalate cases, we would recommend you go into your notifications and turn that on for whoever would like to get those alerts. It's worth doing. It gets you the right information. Make sure you're getting those to the right people, which is to say, if you have a PSA email you used to use, if you have an email routing, if you use a Teams email connection, make sure you have it turned on for those accounts so we can also make sure we're getting you that to stopgap until we have that PSA integration in place. So that we'll touch on that here as well in a second. And of course, resolve in that app or resolve in your two-way if you have a two-way finding. Soon we'll be cascading those finding closures down. Really, I think the big thing there and the big just to give everyone a view in the background, the things we talk about a lot, is making sure that we're cascading the right results down to the finding closures and also making sure that I think touched on this a few weeks ago when I was talking about Kindling originally, might have been a month ago, of making sure that we give people the right path to close things the right way, which is to say, the concept of valid becomes really, cloudy if valid can mean valid detection versus valid threat. So really making sure that's as clear as possible in the data as well as for you. And we don't want Kindling to make the wrong decision for you, for example. So really want to tighten that up and make sure that's as clear as possible. So if you aren't sure what I mean when I say set up the notifications, when you're logged into Blumira, there's a little bell at the top right of the page. You're going to click on that bell. You're going to scroll down. Then you will have the ability to pick any if you want new case alerting, and you can use voice and text. My user I was taking screenshots with just didn't have them filled out. So you can get voice, text, or email depending on what you want here. But new case, investigating, and the severity escalator are the ones that I would recommend at the very least turning on. It's worth looking at them, worth getting them in. Close depends on your internal audit view. I like to get them. It's not needed, but we also will, and it's worth noting, just generally, Kindling will escalate and de-escalate cases depending on what new data is being brought in. And this is one of the areas that I think we'll make more clear in a new update of Kindling, and I want to touch on what that's going to end up looking like too. But one of the big things that we've identified is making sure that it's clear that new data has been brought in and has updated the analysis in the case, which is to say, if you get another finding that's related to the problem, there's the graphs inside of the cases and all those different pieces. We want to make sure that's as clear as possible as we're going through it. But that's where that severity escalated and de-escalated comes into play of making sure that you can really kind of see the pieces that you're looking for. Um, we got there's a question that came in through the chat. Do we have a dedicated integration team? We do have a team that does our integration and parsing. Salesforce is one that we've talked about a lot. I would love to have, I don't think I've talked to an MSP about Salesforce, so I'd love to have a conversation around with you, Jade, around how you're looking to integrate that, because it's definitely something that we can talk about. It's definitely something that we hear requests for more on the I'm looking to get audit logs out of there, but I'd love to have a conversation around how you're looking to use it. All right. And then I got another question that I'm going to answer live because I think it might be my next slide. It is my next slide, Connor. Look, I've made this perfect, Connor. And so we actually have webhooks coming out into GA, I think Monday, if maybe not, maybe this week. I should probably know that as the CEO, CTO, but it's going to be in the next week. And that will essentially allow you to collect any of the types you see on the right here. I realize I'm pointing at my screen. None of you can see what I'm doing. Anything on the right here. So findings, cases, all of that will flow through the webhooks. A little birdie, which I can say because no one can stop me. We realized the other day that we can also get audit logs out of here and push them directly back into Blumira. So one of the changes we'll be making over the next month, probably month and a half, depends on when I have time, when my engineers have time over the next month and a half. We'll be adding in another event type here. It's essentially just like every audit log that comes through this, and then we'll reroute them back into Blumira, and then everyone will have their own searchable audit logs, which will be great. So continuing to really lean heavier on these webhooks to get you more visibility into what's happening inside of these environments. These will be out. Please use them to your heart's content. Like I'm really, really excited to see what people's ideas are here. And we already have people, yep, you could self-audit. Yep, self-audit ingestion for the webhook events. You got it. So it was an idea that we had came from internal that we never really thought about, that essentially you can take these webhooks and put them directly back into our HP ingest, and you can essentially self-report on them. So it's going to be a really nice, refined process where you don't have to do a lot of work to get in what you want. And it should be a nice, really refined way to support it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. For the HTTP ingest, we want to make sure we get used as much as possible. It's really useful. For those of you who haven't used HP ingest yet, I know it's not what we're talking about now, but now I'm going to talk about it. It's been a really great, in the first month of beta testing or beta testing into release, we are already up to 41 unique integrations into products that Blumira has never seen. So, like, please use HP Ingest, use more of it. As you could imagine, this is kind of related to a question that Jade asked in regard to Salesforce and our integration team. It's a big thing for us right now of how can we make that data as effective as possible. So you're going to see kind of two or three different things. We did the first phase of our kind of detection tuning. We are then going to do custom detections, which will then allow you to really kind of drive that forward from an HP ingest perspective as well. Let's see. You've got a question from Chris. End goal is ultimately, I assume the end goal is to ultimately to always start from the case, and traditionally findings only be used to support investigations. Great question. The goal will definitely be to move people to cases for their initial work and have findings be the cascading data up into that case. You're going to see this migration over the next probably 3 months as we put more data into findings that previously, and for those of you who used Blumira for a while, findings and especially the finding analysis, the intention of that was to make it as human readable as possible. But as we get this closer to Blumira, the finding, communicating with Kindling, the agent, we really want to make sure we get as much data in there as possible. So we want to, the way that I'm expecting this to happen over the next 3 months is you will get more findings, but you will work less of them because they're getting rolled up into cases. And if any of you have worked inside of our detection rules or have talked to our CX team, the whole concept of default disabled, my goal over the next 3 to 6 months is to remove the concept of default disabled, really kind of push up on that visibility across everyone's environments without you having to do the work, because that work will get be done inside of the case, inside of Kindling. So yes, very much the goal is to have everyone moving into cases because we want you to save that time. Now, that doesn't mean that you still won't use them. When we do custom detections over the next few months here, if you want to get a finding for that and you don't care if that rolls up into a case, that's okay. Like, we want to make sure that it's working the way that's best for you. But also, if you want to make a custom detection, have a case evaluate that for you and have our AI do the analysis for you, that's fine as well. So we really want this to be optional for how you want to approach it. But for the general use case, the day-to-day use case of Blumira, and I don't mean that as a pun, we would like people to be moving into that case area because that really saves the time, ideally, for the workers when it comes down to it. But we're never going to hide anything. Like case findings will still be available. And what you're going to see in the front end, which I think this is an important part of this, is right now the workflow is there's a finding that comes out, we do the analysis. That analysis, depending on what stick determines and what our kind of back-end compute math determines, will potentially create a case, potentially escalate a case, depending on how those pieces are put together. And then, of course, you can generate a customer summary out of that as well. Over the next, 2 months, as we get these PSA integrations integrated, the webhooks are already out, making sure that we have all these pieces integrated. We're then going to start integrating Kindling back into the Blumira product. So bringing the UI that you like, that you've gotten used to in Kindling, bringing it into Blumira itself. So you don't have to navigate into multiple different places. You go to a finding that has a case related to it, will present the case on top of the finding for you. So you don't have to go and look for these kind of things. So right now it's a bit of hunting, and we want to pull that hunting out and make this as clear as possible for you. So expect over the next couple months to see a lot of evolution here. And we're working on a variety of new things. And you'll hear about some of our other new stuff in the next month or so here. But really the most important thing for me at the very least as the founder is that as we release these different pieces, we don't let them go too far without integrating them back into each other and making sure that there's that integration that you all like are used to. Like the PSA integration is great. We need to make sure that all these pieces drive together. So we'll always derive findings up into a case. A finding may not always be in a case, but working inside of that case is ideal because it gives you that roll-up analysis in every case. Not a pun. And then, of course, the customer summary associated with it. The client data all stays in Blumira. Nothing is leaving Blumira. That's always been a big tenet of Blumira, that we make sure that as you are doing that correlation, as you're doing the work, nothing is leaving our product. Everything is within the actual platform. Similarly, the AI we're using is all within that environment. So nothing is ever going anywhere. We have, for those of you who know or enjoy, we have always been a Google shop. We are Google heavy. We keep everything very, very heavily secured inside of that environment. So the goal of it, which is kind of related to what Chris was getting at there as well in this question, is that we don't want you to have to correlate by hand. That is really kind of the main goal as I and we were building out Kindling, as we were putting these pieces together, is that in a traditional boom mirror, or any traditional kind of threat platform, doesn't particularly matter which one, you're gonna get some guidance, but you're gonna be connecting the dots to an extent. Getting an inbox mail rule alert isn't always helpful. Knowing that there's a period as a rule name is important, but what else happened around that time period? How do we make sure that we are kind of driving those pieces in to make sure that we're seeing the right pieces. And classically, in a lot of different places, that's about going and looking. Look at the data, search the data, write a query, go to the report builder in the world of Blumira, get the right data out, correlate the related findings, piece it together. And in reality, we don't want anyone to put that time into it unless they have the time to put into it in reality. Like we want you to be able to automatically do that. So Kindling does the majority of that work for you, which is why we want to kind of push as much as we can up into that case view, because it's going to pull those related findings together. And it's on me and my team, of course, to make sure that we're continuing to build out the different pieces that ensure that are clear to everyone. All right, next question. Would you be able to share an issue with Kindling Torch that's particularly difficult and impactful to your team? Just curious what legitimate challenges are showing up for a team working with new young tech like this. That's a great question. So it's really interesting. You know, I've been in security and engineering for about 20 years. This is my third startup. And I would say that engineering has wildly changed to an extent. And a lot of that has come through ideation, the how ideation changes as you're building something, and then if you're using AI to build something, the fact that AI will sometimes just go completely onto left field and you have to pull it back. And so one of the most interesting parts of this has been that when you're building out these types of like large data platforms, especially when it comes to these types of environments, like pulling together all these different data pieces, pulling together how they're going to analyze it, making sure they're looking at the right pieces. The example I gave that we patched yesterday was a great example of this. We thought at the beginning of putting this together that it would work out really well in the analysis if we said, all right, sub accounts all look, they have similar-ish. Like I worked at an MSP for many years. We tried to have similar stacks across our sub accounts. So if weird things happened, you know, maybe we have an admin user that logs into this one. Like in my old days, we had NWG admin that would manage the firewalls, and this was 15 years ago, so don't hate me. This was a long time ago. And so we would log in with that user, and I knew that if that user was logging in, we would know where it was coming from, and that would be the expectation. So early in this, we were like, okay, well, we'll do that for the analysis, for the cases and the findings. We're going to pull that in, and it will really give us some more insight into how people are using their different environments, how those sub accounts are falling together, how they fit together. But really, what we ended up learning was that it's super confusing. That while yes, there are cases that does happen, like where you use a shared account or you use a similarly named account across sub accounts, what ends up happening is that for people, any normal person would totally make sense when you think back. If you're reading an analysis for sub account A, and all of a sudden there's a reference to sub account B, it doesn't make any sense. The context doesn't really help you. And while there may be relation inside of it, it doesn't really solve the problem other than give you another data point that kind of drags you in another direction. So I would say the most interesting part of this for the team that has been difficult or impactful is really more thinking about not only what the data looks like and is structured, but how the end user is specifically going to use and view that data, and how can we make sure it won't be confusing. That's been one of the most interesting parts of this, and that kind of cascades if you take a step further and you think about this box on the right here of how you connect together pieces logically. That's been a really big piece of continued development for us, where, you know, every week, every other week, we're pushing out new code into Killing that's about, all right, this is a better way to connect these data pieces together. Here's how we're going to do that inside of this environment. Yeah, exactly, Connor. So we had some situations where Stick was saying like, well, this is related to that account because we've seen that something like this happen in that account before. But in reality, it wasn't a tight enough connection between those two data points. So like the release that we did yesterday essentially puts a new rule set into Stick and into Kindling that says there must be at least 2 to 3 data points that connect these pieces together if it's within the same account. There has to be more than that if they're separate sub accounts, because we really want it to be as clear as possible and not to have this be a situation where you're like, what the hell is happening here? Like, what is this thing talking about? And in reality, as you solve those issues or as you kind of take out some of those issues, you also get the benefit of more accuracy. because you have removed some of the variables that you're kind of jammed into it. Now, you don't get as much crawling across, which, from our testing doesn't particularly matter, and it was mostly just very confusing for people. We had another question come in. Yes, yeah. I saw the email, Connor. Yes, I'm working on it. We're working on it right now. Yes, and I don't think it was a mean email. Connor was very nice. He was not mean to anyone. It was a very great email. We got a question in about the 24/7 SOC offering. Is it a domestic team? Any type of compliance documentation? Yes, it is a fully domestic U.S. team. Is it our existing team here in the Americas, North America, the U.S. specifically? I don't know why I said the Americas. They're in the U.S. We are basically just building out a full third shift SOC. Like we aren't doing follow the sun. We have always been really focused on CMMC, US, and realistically, the Americas support. And for that, our bit, like the way we viewed that was that it needed to be a domestic team that could be here, be available, and always be available to people. So that is a big thing that we're doing. We have a shared responsibility matrix. We can get you a bunch of details out around that as well, Jade. So happy to get that. I'm sure Andy or Nicholas can help out on that one too. I don't know if you guys can see them, but I can, and they're here. All right. Let's see. Yes, there he is. We talked about the correlation. We talked about the impact of it, the changes we've made. We're going to keep making those changes. And of course, if you ever run into a situation, Connor was asking these questions. If you run into a situation where you think it's weird, oh, my stuff got cut off. Oh well, where you think it's weird, like shoot me an email, shoot Amanda an email, shoot Chris an email, shoot any of us an email. We'll take a look and we'll figure out what needs to be changed if something needs to be changed. Because the way that we look at this will only get better through conversation and through testing. And we really want over the next, 3 to 6 months to have you focused inside of the cases, as that's where that time savings is going to come from. And also, as we get a little deeper into this is where that automation structure is going to come into. Because in reality, like I'm not going to talk too much about it today. Maybe next month we'll talk about it. What we really want to do is have you all in a place where you create a case, that case gets pushed into automated response, if you want automated response, and makes recommendations for, hey, you should isolate this user and reset their sessions. Click this button to do it. And just making it as easy, or doing it for you, and just making it as easy as possible for you to kind of go through that case view. And the cases are just the better way to do that because they've already been pre-investigated. So you can turn your cases into client updates. Inside of each case, there is the generated customer summary. It's worth trying. It includes that storyline, really, for the most part, I think, client-ready language, and it supplements your reporting to your customers. So if you have not tried that out yet, the next time you're on a case, click that button and take a look. If you think it's good, great. If you think it's shitty, let me know and we'll update it and get it in a better direction. Because that's really the area, and I've heard this from other customers about Petra, if any of you are on Petra, that has really good kind of reporting around the per incident environment. We really want to make sure that we're also delivering that from the viewpoint that we have into that environment, because we're obviously looking at much more than just that identity view. And I apologize, my checkbox got dropped there. I don't know what happened there. So in summary, kind of looking back across our Kindling view, make sure that you've gone in and enabled your notifications. If you use webhooks, enable the webhooks. That's already in there. That is ready for you to use. They will be in GA next week or later this week. I'll get the real date. It's in the next week, either way. But if you want to try them out early, shoot one of us, literally any of us on this call, a message, and we'll turn it on for you. So happy to get that going. For the automated, we got a question for the automated response. Will that only be 24/7? It'll be a set of after hours specific automations. For the where we're going with automated response, that will allow you to do after hours specific automation. So that we'll talk more about this. I'm gonna guess y'all will have me again next month because that's what we'll be starting to move into is the automated response work as we pin up a lot of this Kindling work. And one of the big pieces of that will be letting you be more controlling about how that automation works and what automations you want it to do. So that will end up being a very big fancy thing, I hope, that we are continuing to work on now. But yes, that will let you kind of start to build those rules in as well. And we've talked about this a lot internally on the engineering side as well. I suspect over the next couple weeks to months here, we're going to try to get in some quality of life changes So no one, for example, is even aware. I don't know if Chris Ferner's aware of this yet. To the API over the weekend, we added the ability for people to control their agents. So if you wanted to isolate your agents, if you wanted to lock out users, if you want to do whatever you want, it's all structured through the API now. So all like one of the big things that I'm looking at, especially as you see me get a lot more visible into a lot of this work, I built the first version of Kindling. I built the first version of the new thing that we're going to be talking about next month as well. It's going to integrate back into Kindling, is that we make sure that we are hitting the quality of life pieces associated with this. And one of those is just making this easier to work with. Webhooks is a great example of that as well, just like HP Ingest. Let Kindling help you with your triaging. Like the findings get scored. If you see something that looks weird, like Connor did, let us know. We will work on it as fast as we can to make sure we get that update out. For those of you who would like to know our release cadence, because I'm already sharing a bunch of information, we generally release code on Tuesdays, sometimes Wednesdays. We never release code on Thursdays and Fridays because we don't love pain, but we will if we have to, of course. So that's generally when you would expect to kind of see those updates as you're using Blumira. You would ideally have that kill chain in hand as you're moving into that case. And really, that's our hope. We want you to work on a thing that's important to you and the time of your team. And the other big thing that you'll be seeing over the next couple months as we integrate this into the product is how do we evolve workflows? Like workflows have kind of gotten minimized because they live inside of the finding, but we don't necessarily want them to go away. So we're going to look at how we graduate those up into those cases as well. I know there's a concept of that inside the case right now. It has like the suggested, this is what you should do next. But that's not inherently the same thing, of course. Can I provide any data regarding Blumira's MDR XDR as compared to well-known solutions like Sentinel-100? Sure, yeah. So I'll be pretty high level here, just because I don't want to speak over anyone who's well defined this more than I have, and no one wants a CEO to just say things, but I'm going to do it anyways. So when we look at our MDR XDR, we're calling it managed MDR, so it's like an ATM machine, but nonetheless. What we're doing is really managing the more full scope of your environment. So it's not that we're just going to be looking at your identity or we're just going to be looking at your Blumira agent. The way that we're looking at this for our managed MDR is that we're covering all of the basically high priority alerts within your environment. So really what we didn't want to do as we were putting this together was have an MDR solution that was like, we'll look at this slice and just that slice. We really wanted this to be the entirety of our SIM because that's the whole kind of push of Blumira. If any of you heard me talk over the last 9 years, my goal of Blumira was always to get as much coverage and data as possible because that's how you see as much as possible. So really the big difference is that we aren't going to be scrutinizing about what you're setting up, how you're setting it up. We aren't going to be scrutinizing about looking at very specific parts. We're going to help you with any of your areas that could have resulted in true threats 24/7, do that analysis for you, help you with that containment and eradication, and really ensure that we can get you to that next step. So we look at it, very biased, as a really strong offering to the MDR 24/7 SOC offering market to really help you solve that problem and make sure that off hours and not off hours, your team isn't being taken up by things that aren't known issues. Yep, we question to everyone, so perfect. Will it work with Linux and Mac OS? Will it work side by side with all the other stuff? Yes, it will. We will, of course, be using our own agent to help with kind of killing processes, isolating things, but it will work side by side with Defender or Sentinel-1 or CrowdStrike, and will work just as well on Linux and Mac OS for making sure that we isolate those machines and pull it out. We do have a whole other secret project we're working on that will make that even better, but we'll talk about that in like 3 months. So that's a whole other thing. But yes, it will support Linux, Mac OS, and I think just in the last 2 weeks, this is something I did worth noting. We do support Windows ARM now. So for any of you using Windows ARM, I updated our install script Pashem to now support that. So if you have anyone on your customer base that's using ARM, usually education, that kind of stuff, those are now, or Surface, those are now supported. So yes, we'll be able to support Linux, Mac, continuing to support more architectures. We'll support Windows. We'll support, of course, working with Defender. And we're looking at into the nearish future, you know, Should we be having our ability to manage Windows Defender, similar to how Huntress does it? We'll see. But really more interested, honestly, in things like file integrity monitoring, using your data to be more valuable just inherently. But of course, looking at both of those. Yes, yeah. Apple M Silicon is one of them as well as traditional. Yeah, in addition to, yeah. So the Apple one should be in, but like Windows ARM, Linux ARM, we've had a lot of requests for. So making sure that we kind of cover each of the architectures is a big part of this for sure. Making sure that you test out that summarizing for clients. And that's something that we'll be looking at over the next couple of weeks here of like in that two-way PSA integration, having that just delivered to you so you don't need to think about, I have to go and click this thing to run it. Making this as easy as possible for you to engage and embed that in your day-to-day is the important part of this, of course, for us. And then resolving where you have right now. So in the app, you can also resolve findings from inside of Kindling right now. So if you're at a finding and you click on the view in Kindling, you can close the finding inside of there. It'll give you the full analysis. Like I was saying at the beginning, even if you're looking at just a random finding, operational finding, you just want more data, you can open that up in Kindling and have Stick analyze that for you. So they're all available for you to do that work, ideally for you. And in some cases, it may not work the way that you want it to, and we will want to hear about that in every case. I know Connor did say he sent a mean email, but it was not a mean email. It was a very helpful email. So anything like that is super helpful. We always appreciate it. And it helps us really get better at making sure that you're seeing the right things triaged. Because the way that I look at this is, over the next 3 months, we'll be making these kind of migratory changes, and this is not going to be like a hard cut, so no one needs to worry about that. We'll be starting to make these migratory changes in Blumira to make cases more elevated. But the most important part of that is making sure that you all feel comfortable with the cases as we roll through that. So continuing through that will be a big part of that. What's next? I don't know am
Matt,
I going?
Matt,
I
can
can
I,
have it, but yeah.
Matt, quick interruption on,
Yeah.
because Connor's mentioned a couple times about his sending mean emails. What Connor really means is he's pushing us,
Yeah.
and we want
Please
to be
do.
pushed. We want to
Yeah.
be pushed, right? Like the thing needs to be as tested and as true as possible. And the way that happens is we get pushed, right? So like Connor, the worst
Yeah.
case scenario is you're not pushing us, right? Like keep pushing.
Yes. Please do. We love it.
Matt, you covered what's next when you
Oh,
talked
really?
about managed and what's
Oh,
coming for
okay. Well, I,
Kindling.
I can
So
touch on it very quickly
yeah,
again. So
you're
I,
good.
I'll very quickly, as you all know, I'll talk forever. So I can very quickly touch on unmanaged as well. Um, I'm sure your bosses love you, Connor. I love my employees that are vocal, so I have no doubt of that. So what's next? We talked about this a little. We already had some questions about it. Our MDR 24/7 SOC, whatever you want to call it, is available now for anyone who's interested to have a conversation about it. Happy to give you our shared responsibility matrix, how we're looking at this, how we're going to help you get covered, how we're going to help your accounts and help your team save time. I know that Andy already has a few MSPs that are either already using it and or going to be looking at purchasing it. So very much already on this path. And really the goal of it, I think, is exactly what a lot of you have asked for over the years, which is I don't want my techs to get up at night. I don't have a big enough team. Can you help me make this easier? And really the way we're looking at this is ensuring that we're really driving our technology and our team in a way that makes this as easy as possible and continuing down the track that we've already been going down, kind of to the question we got from Jade, which is this is all domestic, this is all people within the US, really continuing to support that push that we've been doing on that CMMC, ignoring the fact that CMMC is just a whole effing thing right now, which we can talk about, but that's a whole thing, as well as just the broader kind of view within compliance. So very much, we look at this as we're here to serve you and in service of you. So please let us know what else we can do. So that the manage is a big part of that. We noted this a few times. We're going to be talking a lot more about automation, getting value out of your data, building that automation structure up, how we can support your compliance efforts over the next month or so as we have some of this additional connected technology that we bring to bear. But I'd say the big things are Get ready for webhooks. They're coming real fast. And if you want access now, let us know. Test out your HP ingest. If you haven't done it yet, there's a whole bunch of great options. If you're not sure what to do, reach out to your SA, reach out to Chris, reach out to Nicholas, reach out to Andy, reach out to me, reach out to Greg. We'll get you some answers, Cass. We'll get you answers on to what to do. Julie, too. Don't forget Julie. We'll get you answers as to what you need to do or how we can help you do HP ingest. And of course, really making sure that we are getting you what you need. So continuing to build out the detections, custom detections are coming, making this as easy as possible for you. So, very close to the thing I just said, Connor. So, custom finding, Connor was asking about custom finding case generation rules. Custom detections, custom findings are mere months away, being worked on right now. The first phase we did was being able to tune that priority. We will have custom detections coming out soon after that. But we also want to make sure that we have that kind of drilled all the way up into that MSP management portal because we don't want you to touch every account and like make a detection. That sounds effing terrible. So continuing to kind of make this easier for you to use will be coming here. So expect a very exciting next 5 months. However many months are left in the year. 4.5 months, 5 months. I don't know. Math is hard right now. All right. And thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. If you guys have any questions, obviously you can email all of us. You can email MSP at Blumira.com. I will send this out as soon as Zoom tells me it's ready. And, yeah, stay tuned because there's a lot coming.
One sec. Last question. Do you guys have a specific type of sock you always wear, refusing to wear others? I don't. If you mean this literally, which I'm going to take it literally, I used to, but my son is now old enough to take my socks, so now I have no socks left. This is basically my life at this point.
I would like to answer this as the millennial who was traumatized in school for anything that wasn't an ankle sock.
Yes.
If you could see your socks, that was it. It was the worst day ever. So,
Yes, very much so. All right. So, everyone, thank you for your time. I mean, we're gonna get everyone socks. It was actually one of our first swag items was socks. And they went really well, and I think they've all fallen apart at this point, sadly. But maybe we'll get back to wearing.
yeah, maybe we should bring socks
Yeah,
back.
I think we probably should. So I appreciate everyone's time. If you have more questions, please ask. We will get everyone socks. It's definitely gonna happen. Please, if you're interested in 24/7 sock, manage, reach out. Happy to help, have a conversation. If it's not going to work out, that's okay, but we want to talk and see what will work out best for you. And then next MSP Insiders, expect to see me again to talk about something also exciting that's going to help you with the automation side of this.
Oh, I like this. We've already decided next
Yeah,
month.
just being very, very hinty now. Yes.
We love a tease. Thank
Yeah.
you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll be in touch.
See ya.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great
Thanks,
one.
everybody.